Well, good morning. Here today, we're going to be talking about Chapter 4 in the textbook, Giving Your First Speech. It's kind of an overview of what to expect. I'm recording from my office today because I want to get this out kind of quick. So let's talk about Chapter 4. So the whole purpose of this chapter is to give you, as I just mentioned, an overview of what to expect when you're giving a speech. Now, I provided a speech process overview, that 20-step process, I think just in a document form, but it kind of briefly mentions, selecting a topic, developing your specific purpose, identifying your central idea. So that will take you through all 20 steps. This chapter doesn't go into as much detail. It covers some of the same elements that you'll notice are in both, but the 20 steps I provide is a lot more detail about what those different steps entail. So just, but do look over that speech process overview. The material in there will show up on your final exam, so you don't want to lose that document. Keep it close by. Review it throughout the semester so that can give you a heads up on the final exam. In this semester, it's not 18 weeks, it's only 8 weeks, so it comes quicker than we might think. Okay, so let's go through at least the topics covered in this textbook. The first thing, in the other one, it's select a topic. You have to pick a topic of what you're going to speak about. Now, with your self-introduction speech, that's already kind of done for you, that you are the topic. That self-introduction speech, this one, we call it also an object speech, that you're going to find an item. And as I'm looking at my desk here, it might be a Diet Coke bottle. It might be, this set of headphones right there. It might be, you can't see it, but up on my shelf above is a Kansas City Chiefs professional helmet that I bought. Whatever. I've got that now. But it's some object, and you're going to identify 3 aspects of the object that you're going to connect with yourself. For example, if I thought of the helmet, it has a face guard, it has a chin strap, it's red, it has an insignia on it, or a logo, it's padded, and then I'm going to try to connect those with attributes about me, my person, character, or qualities about me, or experiences, or something like that. For example, I might say that the padding in the helmet reminds me of the security I find in my personal faith. The face mask on it reminds me of how friends I have in life provide strength and security and protection from, I'm just kind of making these up, from outside dangers. And the insignia is of the Kansas City Chiefs, and that is my favorite team, and it was with growing up and my dad and all that. So do you see how the physical aspect of the helmet, although the Chiefs logo signifies the team, then connects with something about me as a person? So it's not so much about the object, but the object is just the carrier of the items that then represent me. But you're going to read more about that in the speech. So, but that one's selected for you. For your informative and persuasive speeches, you're going to select your own topic. Now, for example, I'm doing a correspondence course. I'm kind of leading a couple of those this summer, and it's at the prisons, and so they don't have access to resources. So I had to select a topic for them. I selected social media, and then I found some articles and provided all that for them. Usually that's not the case. Quite often it will be you get to select from any topic in the world, and you just have to pick one for a variety of different reasons of why you might pick something. But usually it's up to you that it's not necessarily provided. But anyway, there are some details in Chapter 5 on how to select an object. How to select a topic. Then second thing they talk about in this chapter is organizing the speech. Now, in this class, and most typically in presentations, and we mentioned Aristotle in one of the previous lecture videos, how he kind of laid out that introduction, body, and conclusion style. Well, that's what we're doing here. There are other methods of presenting a speech, but this is the ones we are doing. It is kind of the gold standard of public speaking, and that is where you develop an introduction that gets people on board with the speech, and we're going to accomplish certain things in the introduction that we'll be talking about later. Then the body of the speech, which is the main bulk of the speech. Those include your main points that you're going to tell us about the Eiffel Tower, and you're going to tell us 3 facts or truths about the Eiffel Tower as an informative speech. I remember somebody did a speech on the Eiffel Tower a few years ago, and they pointed out, I think the original color was either red or yellow. Not black as we know it, but red or yellow. And then it was painted. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It stuck with me. And then finally, we wrap it up with a conclusion where we bring things together and send it off nicely and try to make it memorable to the audience. Now, I use, like as I said before, I use the word typically to describe organizing a speech with an intro, body, and conclusion. As I said, there are other methods, but that's the one that we will be doing here. So we selected a topic. Second, organize a speech. Third thing is delivery. Now, there's a lot more that goes into it than these 3 items, but this is what they present to us in chapter 4, delivering the speech. And the big word you want to remember is the word extemporaneous. There are different methods of delivery that we're going to talk about later in chapter 12, I believe, but for now, extemporaneous. Extemporaneous means you're not memorizing the speech. Extemporaneous does not mean you are kind of making it up on the spot. It does mean, however, that you are well prepared, well researched, ready to go in that form, as well as well practiced, that you know your material well. You're confident. So well rehearsed and well practiced with notes as you need them in front of you to be extemporaneous. Like I'm doing extemporaneous right now. I have my notes in front of me on another screen, and I'm glancing at them as I need to. But then there's a lot of freedom in what I am saying. I'm not reading the notes. I'm not a slave to the notes. I'm just simply glancing at them and then presenting it to you. Okay, so you're going to want to be the same way. Well researched, well prepared, and well practiced leads to a great delivery. It has some form to it and shape and confidence that your audience is confident you know what you're talking about, but also there is freedom to be yourself in your presentation. Okay, so a few suggestions at the end of the chapter here to put you off in the right direction. Number 1, get your introduction down cold. I remember hearing this years ago. If you're going to give a speech, at least maybe, I'm not into memorizing at all, but memorize or know your introduction so well. I always kind of consider it, what level do you start at? Because if you start low and then drop a little bit, you don't have much room. But if you start high and then lose a little ground, you have plenty of room to keep you flying in your speech. So start off well. Start off strong. Start off clear. You know exactly what you're saying at the beginning to get off the ground well. Second, make good eye contact with your audience. Now, I'm having you practice this as well in the online presentation material that we've talked about. But I should be looking at the dot on this camera, the little green light up there. I want to look at the screen, and quite often I do. But we want the dot because that would, in a sense, would be your eye contact with your audience. So when you're speaking with your audience, again, well practiced and well rehearsed will give you more freedom as opposed to reading my notes and you'll notice quite often when I'm thinking, I tend to look up, and that's what I do, but I really should be looking more at my audience. So good eye contact is important. Third, actually I'm skipping the order here or changing it, use natural gestures. I use a lot of gestures, a lot of hand motion. And we'll talk more about this later, what is known as the kind of our power zone for gestures with our hands and where we should make them and how we do that. But use your hands. The more free you are, that's fine. Now, in a public setting with a lectern in front of you, I always tell the audience or the students, if they're not sure what to do with their hands, hold on lightly to the lectern. Don't grip it as if you're going down with a ship, but just casually put in there. You don't have to worry about where your hands are then. Am I gesturing naturally? No big deal. Just put them on the side and leave them there comfortably, and it works great. Then finally, so we've talked about getting your introduction down cold, use natural gestures. You don't want to be stiff. Number third, maintain good eye contact. And then fourth, speak naturally with a sufficient amount of volume. I think I come across pretty naturally in my presentations. I've done it so many times. I've taught this class well over probably 110, 120 times. So I've kind of got it down now. If I don't have it down by now, there is no hope for me. But be natural, be yourself. And again, I know I sound repetitive all the time, but the more practiced you are, the more prepared you are, the more confident you are, then the more natural you will be. Otherwise, we're trying to maintain some kind of artificial approach, and just be yourself. But you can only do that through your practicing. And then use good volume. If you're going to be too soft or too loud, be too loud. A few of the speeches that I heard already tend to be on the soft side. So know yourself, turn up the volume on your own for yourself, and speak at a good volume so people can hear. Usually people don't complain that somebody is too loud. Once in a while, but they will complain if somebody is too soft that they can't hear. I received one video last semester, and I tried and I tried and I tried, and I could not hear the person's voice. It wasn't that their volume was off or my volume was off or the speakers were off or anything like that. It's just they were so soft. I sent them messages that you're going to have to record it again because I cannot hear it to grade it. I think they dropped the course, but I felt so bad about that, but I could not hear it. So make sure you give us some volume. Okay, the last thing about this chapter. At the end, there are some sample written speeches, what we call manuscripts. A manuscript is a word-for-word representation of your speech on paper. As I said, I'm doing these speeches, the class in a correspondence course prison setting. I will never see the students. They will never see me. But at the end of the semester, I will receive all their paperwork back. They are creating manuscripts of their speeches. That's the only thing we can do. And I will grade them in that format. But these manuscripts at the end of the chapter give you some examples of what speeches look like. And I would suggest even reading them through a few times out loud in your own setting so that you can get a feel for what these speeches sound like. And that may give you some insights or suggestions of how you may want to approach your own, speeches. So anyway, so that's chapter 4. And I think I'm going to look for the place here where I'm going to stop this recording. All right, we'll see you again soon.